Welcome, Donna. Could you share a little bit about you and your business, please?
Sure. So my name is Donna Kendrick, and I do financial planning here in the States for families and transition. So that's widows, divorcees, and blended families. I'm also a podcaster and also an author of two books with the third to come.
Excellent. Thank you. Where were you when we started working together?
When I first started working with you, I was just about to launch book number one, which was a book that was really created to help widows in the first 3 years of widowhood. And I was really looking to touch more widows out there and finding other podcasts that I could actually say, hey, this resource is out there. We created it during the pandemic of 2020 because people weren't getting the correct advice because everybody was at home. They didn't know where to go. So the easiest way in my mind to do that was to write a book and put it in their hands. And by using your services to find great qualified podcasts that could spread the message of this book being available, that's how we got it out there.
Yeah, fantastic. Was there anything that made you decide to work with us one to one?
I think it was the relationship that you guys provide to really understand the audience that I was meeting with, being able to have the one sheet to know how I was being presented, as well as the systems that you guys had in place to make it so that all I had to do was say yes or no. My calendar was made available. It was so easy to say yes. And then once I got into the system and I was really able to learn about what podcast I was going to be on all in one spot, that made me a better guest moving on. And so after I used you once, I was like, oh, let's use you guys again.
Ah,
So.
so glad you did. Thank you. What results or wins have you experienced since you started going on podcasts?
One, increased revenue in our business, right? So not only did we get our book into the right hands, we also had the right listeners. So once they actually experienced the book or they went onto our own podcast, they started to follow us, right? And then all of a sudden, when you start following somebody, and if you have a genuine message in your podcast, they start to know you. Even though you might not have ever had a conversation. And I think that was one of the best things for my first experience working with you guys is to get your first client and you say, oh, do you want to learn a little bit about our practice? And they say, no, I already know. I heard you on the podcast and we've been following you. That's a beautiful compliment. So you just jump in on the relationship that here you've had because you put yourself out there genuinely as a guest on these podcasts.
That's so great to hear. And how would you describe your experience of working with us?
It is user friendly. It is delightful. It was truly one of the parts of my business that I didn't have to do a heavy lift outside of really being honest and when I onboarded with you guys of who was I trying to reach. And when you have that ideal client, which your team helped me focus in on for my podcast guest, then it was just tried and true, right? You knew your expectations, you knew how to study to become that guest. Everything was right there. The reminders were there. The follow-up was there. I felt like I was supported by a little bit of a family or staff that wasn't mine. I didn't have to train, but they were still part of our overall objective with our company. So it was wonderful.
And what's your biggest takeaway from the experience?
I think I was really shy to go as a podcast guest. I think I always thought it was just little old me. Why would they want to talk to me? Well, they want to talk to me because I'm a specialist in what I do. I talk to me because I have the experience of just not my own journey in widowhood, but the journey in widowhood of the people I represent. And then you're reaching the people that have that shared conversation, right? I was reaching people that were like, oh, that happened to me too, even though I wasn't in a one-on-one conversation. So that was the best.
Would you recommend our podcast booking service? And if so, to whom?
I have recommended you guys to many. And really, it's for anybody. I love the podcast in line with book launches or new mission launches. I say new mission because so many of us don't keep our business or our practices right where it is. We evolve with it. So when you're about to evolve, when you're about to grow, I would say that's the time to get in touch with your podcast services because, or about to launch a book or a new program, because that's really you're so excited as a business owner to get the information out there, like bubble with it. And that comes through on the podcast. And when you land in the right spots, you can learn from those podcast hosts too. So I love it because it's learning on both ends and it's growth on both ends.
Thank you. What's your advice for business owners who might be where you were before you started working with us?
Don't be shy, right? Don't be, I'm going to say, because I come from a very regulated industry, don't be too stuffy in those podcasts. I think I had to learn from some of those great podcast hosts that I was guesting on wine. Some of them were able to peel the layers of my onion to get me to be genuine as a podcast guest. And so if you could actually just practice a little, or even just go through what values you're trying to promote and be genuine and authentic on the podcast, it'll resonate a little bit better with the listeners.
That's great advice. And what's next for your business, Donna?
Yeah, well, we are about to launch our third book. So our first one was Widowhood. Second one was a book about blended families. And this was supposed to be a book about a guy through divorce, but instead we threw in a little workbook. So it's literally a book to help people here in the States understand where their financial strength is before they move to that divorce practice, to give them the leverage when they're sitting with an attorney to say, I know where my finances are. So here's all the information to help speed up that process and educate. Because in most cases of a divorce, there's one person who had a financial voice and the other one didn't. Just maybe because they didn't care to, or it wasn't their cup of tea. Bringing it back so that you really do have that education started point. And so you'll be hearing from us on podcast again soon.